in an immigrant family?
All my grandparents immigrated to America, to New York. And so it was just a very focused, they all came out of like extreme poverty. So it's like, you got to make money and you got to, then I think even my parents saw how that wasn't very satisfying, which is why they were like, you want to go to art school? You want to like travel?
Yeah.
Like, you know, they let me do something like wild, like get in a grease car that was like falling apart and drive across country and like.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've done a trip. So right now I'm doing what you've already done. In June 2019, I took to the road to ask people from all over the country about their dreams. I thought I would be learning about them, but I'm also learning about myself. Join me and see what you find out about yourself as you listen to other people answer the 3 dream questions. This is Kristen, and she's agreed to answer the 3 dream questions. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, the first question is, Kristen, what are your hopes and dreams? What gets you out of bed in the morning, or what do you aspire to?
Currently, with such a young child, a 2-year-old, often he gets me out of bed, and I have some long-term goals for our property and our farm, to have like a small herb business, and to be knowledgeable enough to share the things that I've learned about herbs, and to help some people get to feel more at peace and comfortable with knowing that there's a lot in nature that can help them and kind of guide them through life.
So it sounds like you're looking at your goal isn't just for your child, or your goal is to make people aware of what nature can be for them. Is that?
Yeah, I guess I have the same goals for him. Like, I want him to grow up in this environment and just inherently know, where his own food comes from, and like cycles of life, and just feel more at peace with his part in life. And then I really enjoy when other people come by and just have like the smallest bits of information about a plant that you see everywhere. They've always thought was a weed, but it actually has these spectacular qualities.
Oh, wow.
I really like to like open people's minds up to that, as mine has been from friends. Like, I really value the information that I feel like I didn't get till I was in my 20s, and already had made some life choices that I think would have been drastically different had I had just even the smallest amounts of knowledge about the earth and the life around me and my part in it. Yeah.
So you feel like you've developed some people would say reverence or respect or awe for life in different life forms and species and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember your dreams when you were younger?
I think I had like very mainstream type ideas of what I was supposed to do with life, but I was never much of a rule follower. I was kind of always pushing against all what I was supposed to do.
Nonconformist?
Yeah, but without like any idea of where I was going, which sort of caused some problems. But in the end, I think I brought myself back to a good spot, but it was bumpy road because I was always just kind of going against the grain, no matter what it was.
So it was I know there's with my students, I'll have somebody put their hand up and I'll push against their hand. And I'll say, what's the reaction? And it's to push back. Mm-hmm. And sometimes that's something that we do. Mm-hmm. It needs to be our idea sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you think that served you that time?
I do. I think I could have made some. Well, I really don't know. Yeah. I think about it sometimes with like choices. I went to school for art, and I got so much out of it. But then I'm expected to be like a capitalist in a capitalist society, and I definitely maybe just accept that I'm not a capitalist and I'm not meant to be. So I have to like find, like you said, my hopes and dreams have to be something besides money, and that just I have to figure out how to wrap it all together.
Gotcha.
But I could have gone to art schools where I would have stepped out the door ready to like be part of a society, or I could have gone to school for science or all these different things. But now, like looking back, my ideologies are so far against a lot of what I might have gone into. So it's really hard to say. Like, I'm not sure what. I don't think I had very long-term goals when I was younger.
And you do now, it sounds like.
I'm learning, yeah. I'm a very immediate type person.
You said you might not have long-term goals, but it sounds like you do.
I do. I'm very much learning. Like I have like an immediacy, you know, like I like to like make things and just focus on them and do nothing else until it's done. Oh. But having children is like impossible. Yeah, it's almost impossible. And I've had to really learn to be like, oh, today I only did these 2 things, but like we're 2 steps closer to this goal, and we have like 4 and 5 and 6 year plans. So things don't have to happen. And then just even like learning the cycles of the property, the land, and how like it's never how we expect it to be, you know. And so just establishing even like perennials and like learning their cycles and how, and just learning how.
I can't think of anything more exciting.
Yeah,
I can't think of anything more exciting. The way you explain it and the way you guys live what you're talking about. I'm going to go off track just a little bit and go back to hopes and dreams. And it sounds, if you could go in and make a couple of changes in society, moving outside of your immediate realm of influence here, is there anything that you would wish for or hope for? The term capitalism came up.
Oh, yeah.
And I know, and that's what sparked the question. Not that I'm trying to lead you into that, but
no, yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I think just finding value in things besides money. I grew up in New York. I don't know if you've been. It's very, very capitalist driven to an immigrant family. So it was very like.
You were in an immigrant family?
All my grandparents immigrated to America, to New York, and so it was just a very focused. They all came out of like extreme poverty, so it was like, you got to make money and you got to. But then I think even my parents saw how that wasn't very satisfying, which is why they were like, you want to go to art school? You want to like travel? Yeah. Like, you know, they let me do something like wild, like get in a grease car that was like falling apart and drive across country and like. Wow. Yeah.
So you've done a trip. So right now I'm doing what you've already done.
I did one, but we ended up, went to Washington State and then came back. Yeah, so I got to, you know, just like meeting people at like gas stations, like you're doing, you know, and you just realize there's so many different kinds of people. Yeah. And like I think there's this quote where it's like, oh, you go out in the woods and you see all these different trees and they're different shapes and different sizes, and you're never like, oh, that tree is wrong. You know, you just like appreciate all the different trees. And I feel like with people, you know, we don't really.
That is such a beautiful analogy.
Yeah,
I wish I could. Not wrong.
I wish I could quote, like have the actual quote, but yeah.
That's the way we should be viewing people as well. Wow.
Yeah. So I think capitalism doesn't leave a lot of room for differences. You know, going to art school, there's so many different kinds of people who had so many cool ideas that were not. You know, they didn't equate to like the normal view of success, I guess.
Yeah. This is your mother. Your dad was on there before. Yeah, Dad was on there. Now it's Mama. Yeah. So, yeah. Mommy. So if you could go back and talk to your 12 or 13-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself? I think, or would you, if you were going to talk to young people or people just starting out?
I think the advice I would give myself would be slow down. That I didn't have to make all the choices that I thought I had to make right away. That like if things didn't work out, it was probably the best thing that could have happened. I think a lot of the things that didn't work out for me, now I'm very grateful for. And I thought I had to have it all set at a certain age, and now I'm like, oh wow, I never, like so many of the best things in my life I would have never planned. And they kind of came, and I just don't feel like the same anxiety I had as a child where I was like, oh, what am I going to do? Like,
so that's
or
kind
these
of the
choices
advice.
are forever, but they're not. Yeah.
That's kind of the advice you would give to kids nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, it's the advice I wish I had gotten, you know, to just...
Is there anything else that's come up in the conversation that...
right now?
Any parting words? You don't have to have anything, but if something came up, sometimes people get an idea or they have something they wish they would have said regarding goals or dreams or childhood or advice.
Well, I do think a lot about, I remember I grew up on a farm that had been subdivided. So we spent all our time playing on a farm, like in people's backyards, and like we were everywhere. You know, one of those childhoods where you're just, parents don't know where you are. And then I definitely hit an age where I remember just like looking outside and feeling like this like longing, but I didn't know how I could interact with it. Like it didn't feel like mine, you know, like I didn't feel like I was part of it or something. I don't know if that makes sense. And that was like, I think that's where like a lot of my pushback came from. So I think if I feel like that age, like that pre-teen age, the more the kids can learn to connect, or like reasons why they exist, you know, how they have part in the ecosystem, you know, that could just like, I think it could calm down a lot of the anxiety that our society has in general.
People need to get out in nature, especially young people. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, like I remember when I first worked on a farm and it was just like inundated with mosquitoes. At some point I was like, oh, I guess part of my job in this life is just to feed the mosquitoes. And then it stopped bothering me altogether, you know, and I like barely am bothered by mosquitoes, but I had to like, I don't know, like that. Just that idea, like, oh, we have more, we're part of this. Like, we're not just, like, on this, we're not separate. I had to take a lot of classes about, like, how religion separated us from nature and, you know.
Sometimes the monotheists, in some ways, even more than some of the others. I better be careful what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know, without getting into it, I did,
But, I think that happens. Sometimes religion and spirituality end up being still different things.
Right, and then you see the unknown as like this terrifying thing. I think the boys this morning, I had my 10-year-old had his friends over, and they were like, why are they killing the aliens? Like, they're not hurting us. Like, if the aliens just wanted to come and visit, why would we kill them? And then they were like, do you mean like immigrants? It's just like immigrants. They're not hurting anyone. Yeah, and they're just like 10-year-old boys, and they're kind of like getting like, why? What's wrong with them? Like, why can't they?
It's not a very pretty image, and it's not a very... It's very inhumane, like in my perspective as well.
I know,
I'm
it's
okay with everybody that watches me. Here's that. Thank you. You're doing wonderful stuff here.
Thanks.
I'm going to take a couple of pictures around, if that's okay.
Awesome.
And maybe get a picture of the 2 of you, or the 4 of you, or the 3 of you, and maybe some of us.
Yeah.
Of us together. Thank you very much.